At 4:23 this morning, an Iranian fast attack craft fired 2 anti-ship missiles at the MT Patriot Dawn, a U.S.-flagged crude oil tanker carrying 2 million barrels of Saudi crude through the Strait of Hormuz. Both missiles struck the vessel's midship section. The tanker, valued at $240 million, is now ablaze 47 nautical miles inside international waters. 17 crew members abandoned ship, 4 are missing. The captain transmitted a distress call at 4:27 a.m. stating, "We are hit. We are on fire. We are abandoning vessel." The USS Porter launched 2 helicopters at 4:41 a.m. to search for survivors. As of 8:00 a.m., 13 crew members have been recovered from life rafts. 4 remain unaccounted for. The Coast Guard has coordinated with regional maritime authorities to expand the search radius to 20 nautical miles from the attack site. And at 4:31 a.m., 8 minutes after the attack, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps posted on social media claiming responsibility and stating, "American vessels carrying oil stolen from Muslim lands will face consequences." Subscribe to this channel immediately, because what I am about to walk you through is not just an attack on a commercial vessel. This is Iran directly targeting U.S. maritime assets in the Persian Gulf for the first time since 1988. This is the Strait of Hormuz, through which 21% of global oil supply flows, now a combat zone. And this is the U.S. Fifth Fleet based in Bahrain, facing the decision of whether to respond with military force against Iran or risk appearing unable to protect American shipping. Turn on notifications, set them to all, because what happens in the next 72 hours will determine whether this attack remains an isolated incident or whether we are entering the opening phase of a wider conflict between the United States and Iran. Here is what happened during the 4 minutes between missile launch and impact, because the timeline reveals how close U.S. naval forces were and why they could not intercept. At 4:19 a.m., the USS Porter, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer stationed 34 miles southeast of the tanker's position, detected radar signatures consistent with Iranian fast attack craft operating near Keshem Island. The Porter's Combat Information Center tracked 3 vessels moving at high speed toward shipping lanes. At 4:21 a.m., the Porter's air search radar detected 2 airborne contacts accelerating from the direction of the Iranian craft. The radar operator identified them as probable anti-ship missiles. At 4:22 a.m., the Porter transmitted a warning to all vessels in the area: missile launch detected. All ships take evasive action. But the MT Patriot Dawn, a commercial tanker not equipped with military-grade radar or countermeasures, received the warning 90 seconds before impact. Not enough time to maneuver, not enough time to deploy defensive measures. At 4:23 a.m., both missiles struck. Hit that like button right now if you understand what just happened. Iran attacked a U.S. vessel while an American destroyer was monitoring the area and could not prevent it. The algorithm decides what breaks through. You decide whether this analysis reaches people who need to see it, because what I am showing you is the tactical reality that U.S. naval forces in the Gulf cannot protect every commercial vessel from missile attack, even when they are aware of the threat. At 4:31 a.m., the IRGC posted their claim. The statement read, "The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy struck the American tanker MT Patriot Dawn in retaliation for the illegal seizure of Iranian oil shipments by U.S. forces. Vessels participating in the theft of Iran's resources will face military action. The Persian Gulf belongs to Iran. American warships do not intimidate us." That statement establishes Iran's justification. They are framing this as retaliation for U.S. enforcement of oil sanctions. At 5:47 a.m., U.S. Central Command issued a statement. At approximately 4:23 a.m. local time, Iranian military forces attacked the U.S.-flagged tanker MT Patriot Dawn in international waters. This unprovoked assault on a civilian vessel is a violation of international law. The United States will respond appropriately to protect our maritime interests and ensure freedom of navigation in the Persian Gulf. Drop a comment right now. Tell me if you think the U.S. should strike Iranian military targets in response, or if we should pursue diplomatic solutions. I am reading every response because this is the question the National Security Council is debating right now. At 6:15 a.m., President convened an emergency meeting in the Situation Room. Attending were the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Director of National Intelligence, the National Security Advisor, and the Commander of U.S. Central Command via secure video. According to sources familiar with the discussion, 3 options were presented. Option 1, immediate military strikes on IRGC naval facilities, target the bases from which the attack craft operated, destroy missile installations, send a message that attacking U.S. vessels results in devastating retaliation. The Pentagon assessed that strikes could be executed within 12 hours using Tomahawk cruise missiles from destroyers already in theater. Estimated targets include the IRGC naval base at Bandar Abbas, missile sites on Keshem Island, and fast attack craft staging areas. Option 2, enhance naval presence and defensive posture. Deploy additional destroyers to the Gulf. Escort all U.S. flagged tankers through the Strait. Impose a no-sail zone around American commercial vessels. This option requires mobilizing assets from the 6th Fleet in the Mediterranean, adding 3 to 5 days before enhanced protection is operational. Option 3, pursue sanctions and diplomatic pressure. Coordinate with European allies to condemn the attack. Impose additional economic penalties on the IRGC. Work through the UN Security Council. The State Department warned this approach could take weeks to show results and may not deter further Iranian attacks. The meeting lasted 47 minutes. No decision was announced. Subscribe to this channel right now if you have not already, because what I'm about to show you is the mathematics of oil supply disruption and why this attack matters beyond the immediate loss of one vessel. The MT Patriot Dawn was carrying 2 million barrels of crude. That oil is now burning in the Gulf. At current prices of $87 per barrel, that is $174 million in lost cargo. But the larger issue is disruption to shipping. Within 3 hours of the attack, 7 commercial tankers scheduled to transit the Strait of Hormuz diverted course. They are now taking the longer route around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 14 days to transit time and $2 million in additional fuel costs per vessel. Lloyd's of London, the maritime insurance giant, issued an emergency notice at 7:34 a.m., raising insurance premiums for Gulf transits by 400%. That means every tanker entering the Strait now pays an additional $3 million in war risk coverage. Shipping companies are calculating whether the insurance cost plus delay cost exceeds the value of avoiding the longer route. If that pattern continues, if tanker companies conclude the Strait is too dangerous, global oil supply contracts by 21%. That 21% represents 21 million barrels per day. If supply drops by even 5% and demand remains constant, prices spike. We are looking at potential $120 per barrel oil within 2 weeks if shipping through the Strait does not resume normal operations. Here is what we are watching for over the next 72 hours, 6 indicators that will tell us whether this escalates into broader conflict. Indicator 1, does the U.S. launch retaliatory strikes within 48 hours? If yes, we are in active military confrontation. If no, it signals restraint, but also potential weakness in Iran's perception. Indicator 2, do additional Iranian attacks occur? If IRGC forces target another vessel, it establishes a pattern and forces stronger U.S. response. Indicator 3, does oil shipping through the Strait resume or stop? If tankers refuse to transit, global oil markets enter crisis. Indicator 4, do U.S. allies support military action or call for restraint? If European nations and Gulf states back strikes, the U.S. has coalition support. If they oppose, the U.S. acts alone. Indicator 5, does Iran make any diplomatic overtures or double down on threats? If Tehran signals willingness to negotiate, there is an off-ramp. If they promise more attacks, escalation is likely. Indicator 6, does the domestic political situation in the U.S. create pressure for or against military response? If Congress demands action, the president faces political cost for restraint. If Congress urges caution, there is space for diplomacy. Here are the 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, limited U.S. retaliation and de-escalation. The U.S. strikes 3 IRGC naval facilities with Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from destroyers. Damage is significant but contained. Iran absorbs the strikes, issues a statement claiming victory for having bloodied the U.S., and does not respond militarily. Shipping gradually resumes. Oil prices stabilize. This is the controlled response scenario where both sides step back from the brink. Scenario 2, tit-for-tat escalation into sustained conflict. The U.S. strikes IRGC targets. Iran retaliates by attacking another tanker or a U.S. naval vessel. The U.S. expands strikes to include missile sites and command centers. Iran threatens to close the Strait entirely. U.S. and Iranian forces exchange fire multiple times over several weeks. Oil prices exceed $150 per barrel. This is the prolonged low-intensity warfare scenario. Scenario 3, full-scale military confrontation. U.S. strikes are extensive. Iran responds by mining the Strait, attacking Saudi oil infrastructure and launching ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in Qatar and Bahrain. The U.S. initiates a sustained air campaign against Iranian military and industrial targets. The Strait of Hormuz is closed to all shipping. Global oil supply drops 21%. This is the regional war scenario with massive economic consequences. Subscribe right now. Like this video. Comment with your prediction which scenario unfolds. I am tracking all three, and as the situation develops, you will see the analysis here. Let me show you the historical context. In 1988, during the Iran-Iraq War, Iranian forces laid mines in the Gulf and attacked neutral shipping. The USS Samuel B. Roberts struck a mine and was nearly sunk. The U.S. responded with Operation Praying Mantis, the largest naval engagement since World War II. U.S. forces destroyed 2 Iranian oil platforms, sank 1 frigate, and damaged another. Iran stopped attacking ships. The lesson learned was that overwhelming U.S. military response deters Iranian naval aggression. But that was 1988. Iran's military capabilities are vastly more advanced today. The IRGC operates over 1,500 fast attack craft, many armed with anti-ship missiles. Iran possesses thousands of naval mines. They have ballistic missiles capable of striking U.S. bases and oil facilities across the region. Retaliation today carries risks that did not exist in 1988. What I know for certain right now, at 4:23 a.m., Iran attacked a U.S. tanker with anti-ship missiles. The vessel is destroyed. 4 crew members are missing. Iran has claimed responsibility and threatened additional attacks. The U.S. has 3 response options: strike, defend, or negotiate. Each option carries significant risk. The National Security Council is meeting. U.S. naval forces in the Gulf are on heightened alert. Oil markets are reacting. And the world is watching to see whether the United States will use military force to respond to the first direct Iranian attack on American maritime assets in 36 years. The next 72 hours determine whether this becomes a footnote or the opening of a major conflict. If the U.S. strikes and Iran backs down, deterrence is restored. If the U.S. strikes and Iran escalates, we enter sustained warfare. If the U.S. does not strike, Iran may conclude that attacking American vessels is acceptable and continue. Stay with this channel, turn on notifications. When the U.S. announces its decision, when Iran makes its next move, when oil markets open Monday morning, you will see the analysis here. This is not over. This is an American vessel burning in the Persian Gulf, and the question of how the United States responds will define our posture in the Middle East for the next decade.